I think for me, this helps to really just imagine, a little bit of, I think even Rodney is trying to say is that creativity is stifled, right? Because Marxists tend to put this rigid, dogmatic understanding, interpretation of Marx, and right, Marx is really even being loose with it, right? Like Marx is saying that I'm just creating, I'm just tracing a path that is for the time where I'm at and now. But when Marx looks at Russia and the commune, right, Marx sees that the potential for, grabbing the communal culture of the peasants before it could potentially get to full stage capitalism, right? And so I think that's where the connection of that had mentioned, right, of I'm sorry, I lost my thought, but he's trying to make those connections, right? That Marx is being flexible, that Marx is, and that creativity, and I think why he's saying creativity is like he's trying to refer to Ujamaa as a creative version, a different type of version that's circumstantial, that's dialectical, right? Based on the history of Tanzania, based on the history of the African continent. And materialist, in a sense, it's trying to understand and really evaluate what's happening post-independence, pre-independence, and is making a scientific evaluation of what it needs to do in order for it to fully realize socialism, right? And so this is not a claim that Tanzanian had a perfect socialist society. This is not a claim that Tanzania is the perfect example of a socialist society. But this is an example of what the work that the effort that they actually put into creating a scientific socialist society, even if they don't claim to be scientific, right? Even if they claim to be just African, right? But Rodney is also stating that the commune, the communal aspect of Africans could not possibly defeat capitalism. And we see that it couldn't even defeat colonialism. It couldn't even push back colonialism, right? And so Rodney is also helping us to see that by employing a scientific method, right? We need a scientific method to respond to capitalism. And for Africans to even say that a class formation doesn't exist and that capitalism hasn't even, infiltrated and hasn't done this to Africans because Africans are communal by nature. But he's trying to say that, no, we cannot fight capitalism, right, on this communal, in nature, culture, right? It can't just be a cultural thing, right? It has to be a scientific method that has to be applied if we are to even, to create a circumstance throughout the world, throughout the globe, in order for capitalism to be defeated. And I think that to me is an argument, for a lot of African-centered, people who are just culture based, right, and do not want to apply a scientific method to thinking about nation building, right? And so that's where I'm at, right? Like why is culture is not enough? Like we should know that, right? Because capitalism is scientific, and we have to apply a scientific method in order for us to push back against capitalism, no matter which stage of history we come from, which is that stage like you can actually skip full capitalism and go straight to socialism. And I think that's where Rodney is getting at here, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, and I probably agree with that 100%, but I do hear at least elements of the African-centered arguments that would say so, as opposed to Marx saying culture is a product of the material conditions. And again, this is why I got to get the experts involved. My memory or my conception of it is that African-centered folks will say, no, the worldview, the culture produces the material reality. And if Africans were turned to a variation of African-centered thought, issues of class and inequality, and even to your point about the science of capitalism could be addressed.
I think even Rodney
I would
goes
like
into
to
that.
see. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Rodney goes into that. I think Rodney is trying to say that communalism, and if I can get the specific point, let's see. he's trying to say that communalism is useless at this point. Like, he's trying to say that even Enjaveri identifies communalism as something that's useless, right? He identifies weaknesses in communalism as a force against technological advancement when colonization was introduced, right? And so the scarcity is what brought stratification, and that evolved into a class-based society within the continent, right? And so this even Julius Enyaveri is trying to say that that is a weakness. If we're just focusing on the communal cultural behavior of Africans, that has already been lost, because Africans can no longer be communal based on the circumstances that capitalism has has kind of removed Africans from that communal nature, right? But he's also saying that in Tanzania it was a very specific, like, they haven't really like caught on to the class formations yet, right? So it wasn't really really prominent. And I think that's a special case that Rodney is trying to identify within Tanzania, that there's like these special cases that it's like it's not really fully realized. Class formation hasn't been fully realized yet. So grab it before it happens, right? And Julius Enyaveri is identifying this, and Rodney is pointing that out as well.